A 2D action RPG with so much character and personality. I don't know how I'll fit it all into this review. This is Crosscode. Don't go away. So usually around this time of year, there's a lot of sales going on. Black Friday deals, you're getting close to Christmas, end of year deals. This is usually around the time where I pick up somewhere between 4 and 5 random games that aren't really that known, and they're on sale for really cheap, usually between like 5 to 15 bucks. In this case, I feel bad I paid sale price because this game deserved to be full price in my opinion. Straight up, Crosscode is a 2D action RPG with a great set of characters and a creative story. The story here isn't really boring ideas from anything else I've ever seen, and you play as Leah in the Cross world. Now, what Cross world is, think of it like this. The concept of Crosscode is basically a game within a game, and in this story, you play as Leah. And as playing as Leah, you meet other players who are also logging into Crossworld. And throughout the story, you'll meet characters who are also playing this game. Of course, this isn't like actual online connection stuff, this is just an already scripted story, but the idea is still there. And it's honestly a really cool idea because it's kind of like a fourth wall break all the time. Because, I mean, you yourself, I was playing the game Crosscode, but Leah was playing the game Crossworld along with everybody else playing the game Crossworld.
This guy literally accuses me of cheating in the game world, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
So it's kind of funny to hear game characters talk about bugs in the game, or maybe they haven't completed this level, or there's like a DLC coming up. It's like a constant fourth wall break that's really fun.
To the mine! Everyone go!
The thing here is that Leah is not a normal player at all. Leah isn't a human plugged into the game world here. She is what the game calls evotars, and to make it simple, she's pretty much an AI. Like, she's basically a robot playing this game. Well, everybody else she meets says, oh, I'm gonna log off, I got homework today, or stuff like that. She can't log off because she can't remember who she is. Despite the fact she's not an actual, technically living person inside this game, and she has an incredibly lack of speech where she can only say a few words, Leah is literally one of my favorite main characters I've seen in recent history, and by the end of the game, you are really rooting for this character. And I refuse to spoil how the rest of the story goes, it's too good to spoil here, but without spoilers, during a raid where they're taking part in like this raid thing, Leah gets pretty much hijacked out of the game and taken to this like off-limits land called Vermilion Wasteland, and she's not there alone. One of your party members, Lucas, is also there, and there's an insane story moment where he's talking about, hey, I don't know what's going on in this game, I'm just gonna log out, I'm gonna go. Turns out he can't even log out, so he says, fine, I'll just, basically take my VR goggles off, and he can't take his VR goggles off.
He literally can't log out, what the fuck? What? This guy's literally got like the virtual reality goggles on and he can't take them off.
Now, trickling away from story, I want to get into combat here.
Yo.
Combat here is something that you're always learning to master, and it's kind of addictive with only one minor misstep. There are 4 main methods of combat: melee, dash, range attacks, and guard. Now, using these alone isn't really particularly insane, not until you add a little bit of flavor in there. And the flavor, what I'm talking about, are the 4 main elements here. You have wave, you have fire, ice, and electric. It's not until you combine these with your special moves that you can charge up while in combat that you really see how sick this combat is.
Rip-off version. Holy shit!
I can still get it off.
Meteor Shower! Nagasaki 10.0! I broke him again? What? Can we get another Nagasaki? Nagasaki 50.0! Drop the bombs, Oppenheimer!
Oh, so sweet. It was wicked awesome.
Item usage during combat, I would say, is also a pretty important factor here and very well balanced in my opinion. You have the basic things like healing items, items to boost your defense, items to boost your attack, HP cap, HP regen, higher range damage, and of course, more expensive items are rarer, but they offer much higher values. The greater the impact, the slower it is to use that item, which kind of is a huge factor because using item, there is no game timer here. You cannot, I'm just gonna pop an item and pause the game. Item usage is live, but you also can't spam it. There's a 10-second cooldown, so you can't just, find a window of 5 seconds and pop every item you have and become Giga Chat God mode.
Let's just keep this shit going. What do we got? I need more balance.
So the item usage here was very, very well balanced. The only downside I saw here to combat was, I believe it's called overheat or override or overdrive or some shit like that. Essentially, if you use too much of an attack in a certain element, you'll overheat and you'll go onto elemental cooldown where you can't really use any elemental attacks for a decent amount of time. My problem here is I felt like I was constantly waiting for my elemental heat to cool down. I mean, technically, over my entire game experience, I only ever hit the max cap like 10 or 12 times or something, but that's because I always got right to the limit and then I had to just wait. Now it is very easy to switch between elements and back to neutral, where if you're using neutral, you're not gaining any elemental thing. In fact, this uses a great system from Immortals Fenyx Rising where if you make attacks, that gives your stamina bar back, which was a great system because that means you're not doing nothing while you wait for your stamina bar to come back. Here's the same system. If you attack in neutral mode, that quickly decreases your override mode. The thing is, I guess there just isn't that much of a window as there is in Immortals Fenyx Rising to just smash attacks here. It's a lot more strategic, so this could just be a get good kind of thing, but I feel like even with eating items that increased my balance, which would affect my overall efficiency of overheating, I still feel like I just had way too many moments where I was just waiting on the clock, looking at the clock, waiting for that shot clock to count down so I can finally attack again. If combat is one half of CrossCodes, puzzles are the other humongous half. And it's around this time I should explain what the ball mechanic is. Think of it like a glowing baseball that you can shoot at will. It also functions as your range attack, but mostly functions as your primary tool in puzzles. You will quickly recognize CrossCode's pattern of intro to a city, do said dungeon, get the key to move on to the next city. And in these dungeons are said puzzles, and these are no small task at all. You will spend upwards of hours completing each dungeon, going through puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. Even to the point where in-game characters once again break the fourth wall and say things like, this dungeon is going on forever, and etc., and things like that.
Oh, I got it.
And if you're not in combat and you're not doing puzzles, you're doing one of the following. Visiting shops, the local cities, looking at their merchant and maybe trading for some good items, completing side quests, looking for treasures on the side roads, trying to figure out exactly how to climb this area. There's a lot to do. For instance, my biggest memory was a side quest I got to do, which turned out to be basically a tower defense minigame. Huge fan of tower defense games over here. As soon as I recognized what I was playing, I was like, this is good. Presentation. I think it's safe to say I bought this game off of its presentation alone. It is exceptionally strong here. You can tell the developers over at Radical Fish really put their time in here. I've already showcased the really cool movesets you get with attacking, but without hesitation, I'm jumping straight into the soundtrack. It is ridiculous here. Great OSTs and great soundtracks in gaming really have that ability to, without you even touching a controller or physically playing the game, just hearing that soundtrack can mentally bring you back into that space, playing that game, bringing up memories, has some sort of great soundtrack to it that I can listen to and basically get the entire experience of that game within that soundtrack. Crosscode does this. Many soundtracks here. Every single area, every new city, multiple combat themes, every new dungeon. There is a soundtrack there. These aren't called in. They're not in the background at all. They're sitting there strong at the forefront of everything you do. Over time, after listening to these soundtracks, you eventually forget that they're even there, while simultaneously almost falling in love with them. Now, while the soundtracks alone could carry a presentation to a pretty high score, it really reaches that high bar with everything else included. Animations when people are talking, very sharp, especially for Leah, the main character, because she can't really speak, so all of her emotions are being played throughout her body and her animations, and it's strong. I mean, like I said, Leah is one of the best parts of this game, one of the best main characters I've seen in a while. No doubt a good chunk of that is because of how great she was animated. Every city I visited felt very different from the last, and it wasn't even close. And something else to mention here that I really enjoy is enemy design. Huge enemy design. There's nothing that puts a smile harder on my face than visiting an area, seeing the enemies, completing that area, visiting a different area, and having a completely different set of enemies. So, for overall impact, I will say this is one of the best games I've played in recent memory. In the past year, I've played a lot of games that I've never played before, and I put Crosscodes right up there with Immortals Phoenix Rising and Dishonored as some of my favorites in recent memory. It's the kind of game where I finished and the credits rolled and I just watched the credits and I was like, so that's it. It's done.
It's sad when it's over.
And something I should note here that I really want to give a shout out to is the developer for this was Radical Fish. And I have to give a shout out because he has a YouTube channel and the transparency from developer to a gamer is incredible. This guy spent a lot of streams just showing himself developing the game Crosscode. As someone who plays a lot of games but doesn't really know or understand or grasp every single thing that goes on behind the scenes, to see a small game developer live streaming himself building the game, I mean, it's crazy. Right now, Radical Fish is working on Project Terra, which is his new one. It's safe to say that I will be pre-ordering that as soon as it is possible. But to finish up this review about Crosscode, some things I haven't mentioned yet. Circuits, aka the skill tree. I thought the skill tree was well done here. You basically have 5 skill trees based off of your elements from neutral, electric, wave, fire, and ice. You also have visible stats here, which is an underrated favorite aspect of mining gaming. I absolutely love stats and seeing stuff. So at the end of the game, looking at my stats for Crosscode, seeing how many jumps I took, how many steps I took, how many enemies killed, time in combat, random stats, I absolutely adore. But at the same time, this game also isn't dynamite perfect. If I had to nitpick it anywhere, even though I absolutely love this game, the runtime was a little too long. I spent about 32 hours in this game, I think, or 33 hours, and I enjoyed 90% of it. Honestly, the dungeons for me were a bit too long. Because every puzzle basically revolves around your ball shooting and coming up with different aspects for that, I often felt the low points of this game was where I got to like the last 20% of the dungeon and I felt like, okay, is this gonna end at some point here? So really, if I had to nitpick, I would have cut maybe 5 hours off and would have had this like a 25 to 30 hour game instead of a 30 to 35 hour game. But of course, I'm putting that here in the overall impact category because that's just a personal thing for me, and that's why I didn't put it in the gameplay aspect. And another tiny thing, I felt like sometimes I couldn't specifically tell what sort of floor I was on. A lot of the time that you're exploring outside of cities is you're jumping up onto platforms, trying to figure out how to get onto the next one. And a lot of times I was like, oh, I can make this jump. But it turns out I was actually a floor below, but I couldn't really tell because of the perspective. Just a tiny nitpick, which kind of really dwindles in the fact of the whole game. So really at the end, huge shout out to developer, very small developer. This is the only game, according to their website, this is the only game they've ever released. Absolutely insane. Project Terra is on the way. You can watch the progress happen over at Radical Fish on YouTube. But Crosscode here, 9.4 out of 10. So that's it. Crosscode is done. Kinda crazy. There is DLC, and I do plan on playing it, but I just spent 35 hours in this game. I'm gonna get a little bit of a break. I have so many series going right now, it seems. I have other games to play. Next game, probably Devil May Cry 2, honestly. It's been a while. I swear to God, I just played Devil May Cry like 5 games ago. It's getting cut out of me. Another Assassin's Creed is probably in the pipes. Maybe another game after that, and then the DLC. We'll see what happens. But for now, I'm your host, Stapleton Entertainment. Hope to review. Peace out.
Hello, I'm getting beat by God right now. Uh-oh. Well, Timmy has suffered brain damage on account of him being retarded. Okay, this has been a 15-minute boss fight, and he's literally at 65% HP right now.
What is up? I know what you're thinking. You're only here for the bonus Easter egg soundtrack I put in at the end of every video. But did you also know I have a donation page under Buy Me a Coffee? Donate whatever you want to my channel and I'll put half that back to an environmental charity. So that's that. Enjoy the music. Peace out.